Hello everyone! Today we'll continue our discussion about illness. Actually, I want to keep talking to you on this topic. In one of our previous videos, we looked at how you can cure a headache without taking a single pill, how you can remove a headache with the power of thought, and so on. In fact, this works for almost everyone, and it's pretty easy. I've removed headaches from myself and from people close to me many times, just making it go away, and it works wonderfully. Also, if you've seen my very first videos about illness, the ones where I talked about what illness is, how to get rid of it, how to remove it altogether, then you probably know that I've said many times that the majority of illnesses, or rather, a lot of conditions we catch, are not caused so much by some virus or whatever, but by the way we program ourselves. Basically, a simple mental programming. And that's precisely what we need to root out from our minds. We need to remove all these little words like, oh, someone sneezed, now I'm going to get sick. We need to drop the way that's become so standard and normal, in quotes, because I personally don't consider that a normal reaction to any sneeze or mild cough, as if the moment someone coughs, that person automatically has to be put in quarantine camp or something like that. Many people might think Nadezhda, as always. You're talking about something you don't know anything about scientifically. And besides, I once stumbled across some bizarre website that claimed I was giving out questionable medical advice, although I wasn't actually giving any weird medical advice at all. The things I talk about the negative programming placed in our heads, the negative programming we ourselves layer into our thinking, where we keep saying, we're sick, we're sick, we're sick, we're sick. This is really quite a scientific approach. There's actual scientific evidence, and if you think, oh, this is some kind of esoteric nonsense that Nadezhda just dreamed up, or you think it's perfectly normal that if I see someone sneeze next to me, that means I'll catch a virus from them, and so on, or that it's normal to be sick 12 or 13, or maybe 10,000 times a week, because the ads say people are just generally sickly, wretched, pitiful beings who can't do anything unless they're constantly on antibiotics, or herbal concoctions, or whatnot, just to survive. If you believe that's normal, I can only say that society has done a great job of brainwashing you. They've done it because it's profitable for them. And maybe they're not even looking at this from an esoteric angle. Today I want to explain why what I say about illness, about the programming in our heads that needs to be cleared, why it's so important and why it shouldn't be ignored or dismissed as nonsense. Because, in fact, this all has a scientific basis as well, backed up by doctors, scientists, and other people with serious expertise. So what am I talking about? There's a concept I think everyone is familiar with, a term too that's known to absolutely everyone in one way or another, and that word is placebo. I believe most people know what placebo means, and you all know about the placebo effect. It's a scientifically proven effect where a person is given something like a sugar pill and they're told it's a fancy, powerful medicine that will cure a certain disease, and they believe it so strongly that this supposed medicine really does cure them, even though, in truth, all they were given was a placebo. This effect is well documented in the scientific community, and all doctors and everyone else in the world know it exists. What does this effect tell us? It tells us that, in essence, a person can be cured with the power of thought alone without any other external factors. They convince themselves their body is healing. They take that magic pill. In esoteric language, they form the intention of healing themselves. That pill acts like an amulet. They swallow it, and their body starts to heal. They feel their strength returning, and so on. They're already mentally set up to think, if I take this pill or that medicine, it will have a positive effect and my illness will go away. Basically, they're healing themselves. Now, if the placebo effect is known all over the world, why does nobody talk about the other effect that also has a proper scientific name? It's called the nocebo effect. Maybe some of you have heard of it. If not, you can look it up. The nocebo effect is basically the opposite of the placebo effect. The people who staged all those festivities worldwide back in 2020, so to speak, knew all about the nocebo effect, and they intentionally used it so it would work on the masses. I also think big pharmaceutical companies, in one way or another, aren't stupid. They know about the nocebo effect, and for them it's great news that people have this effect and that they can make good use of it. Because the more people let their thinking follow the nocebo effect, the more antibiotics, sprays for sore throat, and so forth they can sell. So let's talk about what exactly this effect is. The nocebo effect is when thoughts trigger illness. Not that I'm taking a magic pill and being cured, but the other way around. My thoughts are the main reason I get sick. That's precisely what I was talking about in my first videos about illness, society's programming about, oh, someone sneezed, I'm going to get sick. And you don't see any harm in that. You think it's perfectly normal that if someone sneezed, they passed a virus onto you and now you got it. But the point is your own thought. He sneezed, I'll catch it, is what sets off the chain. That negative belief is the nocebo effect, the direct opposite of placebo. You start priming yourself with everyone sneezing and coughing, so I'll be sneezing and coughing too. And you become that person who's constantly going to the doctor, saying, everything hurts. I'm terribly ill, while the doctor examines you and says, you're totally fine, and you respond, no, I'm still sick. I feel sick, and so on. If we leave aside for a moment any talk about energetic attachments or anything like that, and just look at a person's thought processes in everyday life, I want you to realize how what you consider only normal thinking can lead you straight into the abyss, because with those thought processes, you set the negative programs in motion, not just for yourself, but if we bring esoterics back, for others as well, like your kids or the people around you. The placebo and nocebo effects show us that thought is primary. They show us that the main factor isn't the pill or antibiotic or spray for your throat, but the thought. A person can heal themselves spontaneously. Let me give a down-to-earth example. Not long ago, I overheard two people talking in a public place. One was saying, people are sneezing and coughing all over the place now, so you really have to take medicine, and so on. Back in the day, people would die from all this just the same. There just weren't any diagnostics or technology to identify it. And then another person chimed in with a real life story, something that's tough to deny. Think about our moms and dads, or grandparents and great-grandparents. For instance, there's the old story of how some grandmother used to walk 7 kilometers to school, from one village to another. There were no warm buses, no heated cars. She trudged there and back in 30-degree below zero weather every day. Nobody gave her a ride. And though she was freezing, she never got sick. And back in those days, there wasn't this huge pharmaceutical industry either. Sure, there were some medicines, but we can't say they had some magic herbs that cured absolutely everything. And just one generation ago, our grandparents, great-grandparents, they didn't have this mindset that if you go outside and breathe it in -30 air, you'd automatically have a sore throat tomorrow. They simply weren't programmed to get sick. They had no nocebo effect telling them to make themselves ill. I've never denied, and I still don't deny, that viruses exist or that certain things exist in that domain. But the question is, where do they actually come from, who's releasing them, and in whose interest? That's a separate topic, and we're seeing loads of information about who's doing what with these viruses, how and why, or what they're mutating them into. But that's beside the point. The real point is that we forget our thoughts alone, even if someone is releasing some virus somewhere, can set in motion our own personal program of illness. In the best case, that might just be a mild cold, and in the worst case, it might be something far more serious like cancer or other conditions. I'm not saying everything is caused by human consciousness, but consciousness is certainly a factor. There are, by the way, some scientifically proven points. even if we ignore the esoteric side, confirming that what I say is not just laughter or some silly notion. This is not some weird talk about invisible energies that we can't sense or measure. Actually, all of this can be observed physically. It's proven, it works, it's real. And you need to understand that the people in power who know how all this works use it as a ready-made tool to push their products. Somebody profits from this. Keep that in mind. Also, science has shown that when a person is in a positive emotional state, feeling happiness, joy, or wonderful mood, the body produces certain substances in the blood that boost regeneration. In other words, if we say it in esoteric terms, when you're in high vibrations, you're less prone to illness. Even when I was 17 or 18, I noticed that if I stayed at a high emotional level, feeling happy and wonderful, I didn't get sick, but the moment I let my emotional state drop, like someone did something unpleasant to me and I started dwelling on how horrible they were, or if I dove into negative emotions, I'd start getting sick. I watched it closely and saw that whenever I went into negativity, some odd physical problems would appear. Many of you have recently said you want practical tips. You'd like me to share some exercises or whatnot for living better or achieving more. And in fact, I do share a lot of useful information. For instance, lately I've posted about where entities come from and so on. Maybe some people consider that unimportant or think it has nothing to do with their happiness, but I see it differently. From my esoteric viewpoint and personal experience, I believe this knowledge is extremely important for then applying it in practice. People forget that you always start with theory before you do practice. If we talk about physics, for instance, an electrician has to learn the theory how not to get electrocuted or killed when working with wires before he climbs up anywhere. He studies the textbooks thoroughly, learns all about safety and how electricity behaves, and only then does he go work with live wires. That's my view of how it should be done. So yes, the theory is essential to understand certain other things, including practical ones. Like right now, I'm giving you theoretical info about illnesses, how to remove them, what they actually are, and I think it's super important to realize, because if you understand that most of your codes, for instance, are triggered simply because, like a well-trained hamster, you automatically follow the nocebo effect that's been drummed into your head, like how people say, it's spring is here, it's cold season, autumn is here, it's cold season. It becomes your script. You don't even wait for autumn to fully arrive. You're already saying, we're all going to get sick. That's the nocebo effect. You've set it in motion, you're primed, and you start planning. Well, autumn is coming. Guess I should stock up on medicine. You're mentally preparing to be sick, and guess what? Then that's exactly what happens. Now, if we talk about the placebo and nocebo effects, which are so scientifically confirmed, they show us in general the power of intention. That's basically what intention is and how it controls our entire reality. That's astonishing if you think about it. But we treat it as if it's no big deal. Sure, there's a placebo effect, so what? But once we start talking about intention, people say it doesn't exist, that they can't control their reality. Yet apparently, when it comes to placebo or nocebo, you can control your reality, only usually in a negative way, because that's what's being pushed on you. And ironically, nobody even mentions the nocebo effect by name, but it's absolutely there. This actually relates to what I've always said. You're constantly launching a huge number of intentions every day, but you don't realize it. It would really help you to be aware of this, because understanding the causal relationships, how it all works, matters now more than ever if you want to break out of negative, forced programs, including illness programs, but not just illness. Because when you see how negative thinking has become the norm for most people, without them even noticing, they just keep repeating the same negative outlook. They say things like, oh, nothing will work out again. Oh, everything's going to be terrible. Oh, we've seen this scenario 1,000 times. Or If I go there, I'll fail, I'll waste my time. Or Sasha is sneezing, everybody is sneezing, so soon everyone's going to be sick. Or my parents, my mom, dad, brother, aunt have some diseases, so I'll probably get them too, and so forth. When you listen, you realize that's how almost everyone perceives life, through negativity. It's not even about being blindly positive, like sitting in a puddle and saying, everything's great, everything's wonderful. No, that's not it. It's more that we've been trained not to expect anything good from life. Whenever something positive happens, we tend to think, well, okay, it's positive for now, but tomorrow it'll probably turn into some awful misfortune. We automatically tack negativity onto everything, even the good stuff. This is precisely what we should remove from our lives. We should stop letting ourselves slip into that pattern. If someone sneezes or coughs, let them be sick if they choose, but you don't have to join them. You don't have to launch that programming in yourself. If you just say, they might be ill, but I don't want that. I won't be ill. You don't take on that scenario and you'll end up a lot healthier without even noticing it. You just stop being sick. I'm delighted to see comments from some of my subscribers saying that after they watched my very first videos about illness, where I explained in detail what illness is, why it happens, and how it helped them stop being sick. So at the end of this video, I'll include a link to those earlier videos. They're very clear and colorful with illustrations, so it should all be perfectly understandable. Anyway, I think this video will also be informative for many, maybe give you a boost of positivity, and remind you again just how important it is right now to change your mindset. How important it is to look at yourself honestly, start analyzing how you act, how you view life. Ask yourself, do I do the same thing? How often am I playing out those same old scripts? Or every time something good happens, do I start expecting something bad from it? Every time someone sneezes somewhere, do I automatically map out a path for me or my loved ones to get sick? Am I constantly projecting negativity onto my life in general, like if I go there, I'll fail. If I do this, it'll turn out badly. Ask yourself how often you pre-write negative scenarios for events you haven't even started yet, for difficulties you haven't even faced. You haven't even tried, but you're already concluding it won't work out. Figure out how much that's part of who you are. Because if you notice this in yourself, that's exactly what you need to work on first. Remember, I've said several times that time has sped up. Now, everything, every intention, every beat of negativity manifests in a snap, literally with the snap of a finger. That includes both positive and negative intentions. So you need to be very mindful. Watch your intentions, remove these scripted negative patterns from your life. Alright, I send you love, hugs, and kisses. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel. Become a member of my Telegram channel and discuss with like-minded people as a supporting club member.